For a long time, when someone asked me how I was doing, I would run through my whole story. Everything that had happened to me, what happened to my health, what my husband did, what I lost, what my life used to look like before all of this. I was telling the same story over and over again. And not just to other people, but also to myself in my head. Like it was on a constant loop. And every time something went wrong, or if I was just feeling bad, which, happened a lot because life, the story would get louder. The replays would get faster. And I just found myself feeling so stuck. I wasn't able to get past the story of what was happening to me. Maybe you've experienced something like this too. Today, I want to talk about why that happens to us and what we can do about it. Here's what I think happens to so many of us after going through something really hard. We go through our something big, something that feels like a complete unraveling of life as we know it, whether it's a diagnosis or a betrayal or a marriage that ends, or even just a life that stops looking like yours. And we need to talk about it, right? We need to grieve it. We need to process it. Totally normal. That part is healthy. That part is necessary. But then at some point, and the shift is very subtle, at some point, the story of what happened to you can start to become the story of who you are. You stop being a woman who got sick and you start being a sick woman. You stop being a woman whose marriage fell apart and you start being a woman who's unlovable. Or you stop being a woman who lost herself and you just become lost. And the story that was supposed to help you heal starts to keep you stuck instead. It's taken me a long time to see this in myself. I've thought that I was just processing what I was going through, like it was just part of getting through it, like talking it out, moving through it, slowly healing. But what was really going on is that I was stuck in a loop. Same story, the same wound, the same shoulda, coulda, wouldas, just looping around in circles in my mind. And looping around in circles is not the same thing as healing and moving forward. There's actually a name for this. And the first time I heard it, it completely blew my mind. Caroline Myss, an author and teacher whose work I love. You might know her big book from the 90s called Anatomy of the Spirit. Anyways, Caroline Myss calls it woundology. The idea is this, that we unconsciously make our wounds our identity. We think, this is what happened to me, so this is who I am now. And it totally makes sense why we do this. When we've been through something hard or something painful, that pain becomes all-consuming. When it's there, it's the loudest thing in the room. And so we can't help but begin to see life through its lens. So whenever someone would ask me how I was, and I would reply with my health woes and my marriage woes, I was speaking woundology, as Caroline Myss calls it. I was speaking through the lens of me defined by my wounds. But here's what I realized. As long as my wound was my identity, as long as what happened to me is who I was, and the pain became how I defined myself and my life, there wasn't space for me to be anyone else. I was just the woman who got sick, the woman who got cheated on, the woman who got fired. And these labels, they cut me off from a deeper truth, that underneath all of it, I was still whole and I was still me. I always had been. So if the wound isn't who I am, then who am I? That's where the real work begins. And it starts with looking somewhere that most of us don't want to look. So as I was going through all of my stuff, here's what I couldn't see. People in our lives act as mirrors. Yes, even and especially the people that hurt us most, as uncomfortable as that is to hear. We learn through relationship, and those that we enter into relationships with, And I don't just mean romantic. I mean friends, coworkers, neighbors, but yes, especially spouses, partners, lovers. They show us things about ourselves, things that we aren't able to or maybe aren't willing to see yet. So when we feel hurt by someone, what if instead of jumping to blame, we could look at why we're hurt to better understand who we are? Because on a spiritual soul level, as crazy as this may sound, a part of us chose this person to teach us a lesson that we're meant to learn. This is not about letting anyone off the hook for what they did. This is something different. It's about using what happened to you as a doorway into yourself. Because what bothers you in someone else is showing you something within yourself that you're bothered by. These are your shadow parts. And our triggers reveal our shadow parts. These dark qualities within ourselves that we spend our lives trying to ignore or disown or trying to pretend we're better than. But whether we like it or not, we are all human. And that means we all have parts of ourselves that we'd rather not look at. The anger, the bitterness, the jealousy, the blame, the parts that just don't fit in the story that we want to tell about who we are. And what most of us do with those parts is we hide them. We push them down. We pretend they're not there. We build a whole life around not being that person with those parts. But when we don't acknowledge them, they don't go away. They just start driving from the passenger seat. Thanks, brain. When we find ourselves blaming someone else for our pain, when we keep circling that same story about what they did, what if we were to turn the accusation back on ourselves? So instead of thinking, she is so selfish, or he is such a liar, or she is a betrayer, what if we turn the mirror around towards ourselves? I am so selfish. I am a liar. I am a betrayer. I found for me, it's easier to stand in my integrity when it comes to how I treat other people, being selfless, telling the truth, doing what I say I will. When it comes to how I've treated myself, well, I haven't always treated myself that well, honestly. I've definitely lied to myself, and I've definitely betrayed myself too. Now, I'm not inviting you down this line of inquiry to punish yourself or to make you feel like you're a terrible person. You are not. I'm inviting you down this line of inquiry to give yourself the gift of seeing yourself more clearly, your whole self more clearly, to see that you hold both light and dark within you, just like I do. And we must acknowledge all of it to be truly whole. We don't become whole by getting rid of our dark parts. We become whole by owning them, by letting them belong too. This is the place inside you where the real healing lives. Because you cannot heal what you cannot see. And the people who hurt us most, they're often the ones holding the mirror up. I want to tell you more about what this process has looked like for me, because I tried this myself, and here's what I found. So to give you an example, for the last few years, I've been holding a lot of anger, and I have spent a lot of time and energy pointing my finger at other people as the cause of this anger, simply because I felt abandoned by them. I felt abandoned by people in my life, and so I blamed them for my pain and for my circumstances. I kept looping these same stories around and around over and over again in my mind, and it fueled my anger and my blame. Yes, this is all true, I would think to myself. These are facts, and so no wonder I'm angry. It's all their fault. You know, that sort of thing. In my version of the stories, I was the good guy, and everyone else was the bad guy. But here's the thing. This is what I was feeling, and I did have a right to feel it, of course. But looping the thoughts that fueled them was poisoning me. And I came to realize that only the fractured, separated part of me, the part driven by fear and hate, would be constantly blaming other people instead of taking responsibility for my own life. The story I was telling myself was keeping me stuck and playing the blame game. And it did not feel good. I wanted to get back to love and not stay stuck in anger and resentment and blame. Ugh. So one day, sitting with all of that, I tried something. I turned the mirror around. So instead of thinking, they abandoned me, instead I asked myself, how have I abandoned myself? And I had to sit with that one a while because the honest answer was really hard. I had stayed at a job that I knew wasn't right for me because I told myself we needed the money. And I was afraid of what certain people would think of me if I left. I had moved to a new country that just didn't feel like home to me. And instead of listening to that feeling, listening to my intuition, I pushed it down. I stayed there and I dug my heels in and I kept on going. I had stopped speaking up for myself in small ways and in big ways. I stopped saying what was true for me. I stopped asking for what I needed. And I let myself slowly shrink to more conveniently fit into a life that just wasn't right for me. And so what landed on me slowly and then kind of all at once was this. The people in my life were reflecting something back to me that I hadn't been willing to see, that I really had abandoned myself. They showed me where I had stopped showing up for myself, where I had lied to myself, where I had betrayed myself, and where I stopped being someone that I could rely on. Not an excuse for anyone else or their actions, but a door for me to deeper clarity, deeper knowing, and a deeper truth into myself. All about me, not about them. And this is the part that's crazy to me now that I look back in hindsight. The Rachel who stayed in that job, the Rachel who kept quiet, the Rachel who kept moving even when everything inside of her said, stop. That Rachel came from parts of me that I needed at one point to survive. They became parts of me to help me survive when I was a child. That version of Rachel, she was doing the very best that she could with what she had and with what she knew. And, she got me here. She got me through it. But now she needs me, finally, to see her. Not to judge her, just to bear witness to her and to love her just as she is. And that's true for every part of me that I hadn't been willing to look at yet. The anger, the grief, the blame, none of them were my enemies. The reason the mirror works, the reason we see ourselves in the people who hurt us, is because those parts were always ours. We just hadn't claimed them yet. Your anger is not your enemy. Your grief is not your enemy. The part of you that is still so hurt she can barely breathe some days, she is not your enemy either. In fact, she's the missing piece. And when you stop fighting her and pushing her down and pretending she's not there, when you turn towards her instead of away, when you say, I see you, I know you've been carrying this, and I love you anyways, tell me everything. This is when things start to change. So let me bring all of this back to where we started. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your betrayal. You are not your grief or your loss or the thing that broke your heart open or the story that you've been telling about it ever since. You are the one underneath all of that. And she is whole. She is light and she is dark. She is strength and she is the wound. the one who survived and the one who is quietly returning to herself. I love that Walt Whitman line, I am large, I contain multitudes. You contain multitudes too. And so do the people in your life holding up those mirrors to you. Healing, it's not about fixing your broken parts. It's not about getting rid of the dark ones either. It's about welcoming everything, letting it all belong, and seeing yourself, all of you, clearly, choosing to love what you find, and trusting that something larger is holding all of it and holding you. That is where the healing lives. Not in the story, not even in the suffering, but in the seeing. You are allowed to put the story down. You are allowed to be more than what you've survived. You are allowed to stop letting what happened to you be the most important thing about you. Because you are so much more. This is exactly what we go deep on together in my workshop called The Woman Within. The mirror, the shadow, seeing yourself fully and choosing to love what you find there. If what I shared today resonated with you, I would genuinely love to have you there. It's not about just hearing these ideas. It's about actually feeling them in your body and with other women doing the same work alongside you. I'll leave a link in the description where you can learn more. I want to leave you with one final question to carry with you today. If you turn the mirror around, not to blame yourself, but to see yourself more clearly, what would you see? You don't have to answer that to me, but if you want to, I'd love to read it in the comments below. You can also send me a DM on Instagram, send me an email. This is the kind of conversation that matters for you and for the women reading it right alongside you. The whole point is to feel less alone and more supported. I'm here for you, and I'm also walking this path right alongside you. Before you go, hit that subscribe button to let me know that you liked this video and that these words made a difference to you today. And until next time, be good to yourself.